Welcome back, everybody. We are live in San Francisco for the single elimination part of this World Championship Series. So we are going to be in the top 16 now, and everything is on the line.
It's so intense. I keep saying that, but we are down to the final 16 best Pokemon video game players in the world. And, you know, we made it through that first round of that playoff bracket. Some lucky 8 players actually were able to receive a bye because they played really well earlier on. The other 16 players had to compete against each other, pitted out, and now we are down to the final 16. And it's going to be a really, really great show. This is by far the most diverse top cut we've seen in terms of teams and country representation.
Speaking of country representation, I think it's important to note that there are no Japanese players in this top cut currently.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have written a better script, right? Last year, Japan dominated the World Championships with 7 of 8 top 8 finishes. This year, Japan wasn't even in the top 24 whatsoever. So, you know, North America got a lot of flack last year because none of their players were able to do better than... There are 2 players that went 5-2, but in the top 16, you know, none of them made the top 8. And then this year, Japan not even making the top 24, none of their players winning more than 4 matches.
But, I mean, commiserations to Japan and obviously to Conan Thompson as well, who's the US representative, but obviously has links to Japan as well. Yep. So, fantastic performance from them throughout the weekend, but obviously can't be in the top cut. But we've got some amazing countries and amazing players to tell you about as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is so exciting. There's so much information we have, and, you know, we were just doing the statistics on what countries are in this top cut bracket and the teams that each player is using. And I counted so many different restricted combinations. There are going to be so many different strategies and Pokemon use, whereas, you know, the last World Championships was Kangaskhan, Landorus, Cresselia, Heatran. Now we've actually got incredible diversity, even in terms of legendary duos.
Let's just jump into it, Aaron. They don't want to hear about us rambling on anymore. They want to know who's in the top cut.
Yeah, so we'll give you guys an updated bracket. So Aaron Trailer was able to get that round 1 bye. He is the top seed, actually, 7-0 right now, U.S. runner-up, and Aaron is looking to win this whole thing. He's looking to bring the title back to the United States.
Really modest guy. I spoke to him earlier today. He didn't feel like he could go that far. He said that he was really excited just to be here, and it's fantastic that he's managed to get this far undefeated.
Yeah, absolutely. In the round of top 24, Blake Hopper was able to defeat Dane Diamond from the U.S., and so Blake, a heavy favorite. Once again, this is his third top 16 finish at the World Championships, but this time he actually gets a chance to fight on for the title of World Champion, whereas previous years he was eliminated. We've also got Edward Cheung from Hong Kong. First time Hong Kong's been in the top 8 in the top 16 in the Masters division, so yep. Huge opportunity for him there, and he's actually going to be playing Markus Stadter, which, you know, one of the game's most influential and famous players.
Really big match there.
Yep, and so Markus from Germany. In the other bracket, we've got Justin Karras from the United States versus Sam Panelis from Australia.
From the Australia. But I think
the one and only Australia.
But he is the only Australian in this top cut.
He is.
And so he obviously came in top 4 at Australian Nationals, and a really big showing here. He's going to be fantastically excited that he managed to get through this far.
Absolutely.
Next up, who's next?
We've got Wolfie and Mateus. So Wolfie Glick from the United States and Mateus from Germany. Mateus actually was the 17th place finisher at the World Championships last year. He had a 5-2 record, but didn't even get any prizes because of the poor, you know, kind of tournament structure. But this year, Mateus was able to advance on with the next 2 record, and now he's fighting one of the game's best players in Wolfie Glick.
And then we also have Sebastian Escalenta, who's actually got a bye this time. He's Argentinian's hopes and dreams here.
Yep.
But he is in the top cut. He's in top 16, and he's going to play against Eduardo Cunha of Portugal. So 2 countries who are getting their first top cut representation in the World Championships, and what a brilliant match that will be.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sebastian was actually in the top cut of the World Championships last year in the seniors division, but was eliminated in top 8. So he's looking to make a deeper run and represent his country well. The next matchup we've also got is Michael Lanzano versus Barris from Germany, and that's a big one as well. Barris, you know, a player who's made the World Championships for so many years now, and Michael is a player who actually, you know, didn't really play too much at all this year, had a surprise top 8 finish at the United States Nationals, and now he's in the top cut at the World Championships in the year he's perhaps played the least.
And we saw how strong Barris has been playing recently, so
phenomenal playing that last.
And also we saw how well Michael Lanzano played yesterday as well against Tristan Medine. So there's a lot of really good action on the line for you guys. Next up, we also have Giovanni Costa against Jang Won-sok, and Jang Won-sok
Jonathan Evans.
Oh, sorry, Jang Won-sok was knocked out. Yeah, Jonathan Evans is going to be playing as well, so a US matchup there as well. So Jonathan Evans having a really good, strong performance. He played at UK Nationals this year.
Yep.
So he's playing all over the place. And also we've got Barry Anderson against Jamie Boyd, 2 UK players facing off for a shot into top 8.
Yeah, so this is going to be so intense. We're going to be bringing you some of the action here in top 16. I believe we're actually planning on streaming all of the top 8 and the top 4 matches before before obviously we have our 2 finalists for tomorrow decided. But I'm so excited, and I think we've actually got our match ready now.
Yeah, so once again for you guys, it is going to be Markus Stadter against Edward Cheung from Hong Kong. It's going to be an amazing match for you. We're going to kick right into it, so don't go anywhere. We've got Markus Stadter once again against Edward Cheung.
Yeah, and this is so exciting. I mean, it's Hong Kong in the top 16. All the Asian regions recently have really gotten into the game, and you know, there's a lot of pressure here for Edward, right? He's going up against Markus, who is just such an influential player. But you know, this is an exciting moment for Markus too, because this is actually his world's first top cut, despite competing in 2012, 2014, and 2015. So I'm sure it means a lot to Markus. He actually took the season off to commentate the European Nationals, had to play through day 1, had a phenomenal run. Here he is in the top 16, trying to go even further.
So yeah, and also with Wolfie Glick and Barris using the same or the similar teams, they've obviously trained together. Really strong team from these competitors. We actually are in team preview now, so you can see Edward Cheung's team is going to be Kyogre, Smeargle, Salamence, Cresselia, Kangaskhan, and Groudon. And Markus Stadter's team, which you cannot see, is going to be Kyogre, Gengar, Raichu, Bronzong.
Got the Hitmontop.
Yeah, Hitmontop, and the Rayquaza as well.
Yeah, so pretty interesting matchup here because we actually see a dual primals composition here against a Kyogre composition. There are actually so many different team comps in the top 16 in terms of dual legendaries. We've got 7 of them. Kyogre and dual primals are 2 of the more common ones, with Kyogre being actually the most common one, tied with Groudon, Xerneas, and the dual primals a little bit less often. You know, I think there are only 3 players in the top 16 running dual primals, but this should be a really fun matchup. We do see the Smeargle here. We do see the 2 Mega Evolutions as well. And we actually see Cresselia over Bronzong. Bronzong, a very common Pokemon with this dual primal composition, but instead, Edward deciding to go with the Cresselia, which I think actually might help him a little bit more in this matchup because it has a optimal matchup against the Hitmontop. You can maybe Icy Wind or use Ice-type attacks against the Rayquaza. A lot of this will come down to speed control, and Markus's team really revolves around how well do you protect your Kyogre, because Kyogre is the main means of offense.
And with the ability to bring in that Kyogre on his own side of the field for Edward, there is a lot of strategic movement he can make. Markus's team is really heavily trying to counter those Xerneas and Groudon teams.
Absolutely.
So going up against the dual primal, it's going to be an interesting matchup for sure. So guys, we're going to jump into this top 16 match now. Once again, Markus Stadter and Edward Cheung. We're going to see Raichu and Kyogre on Markus's side of the field. So obviously we've got the Lightning Rod ability protecting Kyogre from any sort of thunder type, electric type attacks. And for Edward Cheung, we see Cresselia and Kyogre. So 2 Kyogres in the field, and a bit of speed control from both sides.
Yeah, and I hope everyone in the audience is hyped up. This is going to be such an exciting match. Edward representing Hong Kong, Markus finally getting that chance to play in the top cut he's looked for so long. Let's give it up for these players and let's get started with this match.
Excellent, excellent time, guys. So obviously Markus is one of the more well-known German players, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Hong Kong are going to perform here. So we've got the Raichu and Kyogre and Cresselia facing off against each other. And Aaron, where do you think this is going to go?
Yeah, I mean, Raichu is definitely always a very big threat because of its ability to fake out. It can also obviously just use some super effective electric-type attacks against the opposing Kyogre. So I think I like Markus's lead a little bit more here. You also have to wonder whether either of these Kyogres are carrying Thunder. We don't see any switch shots or protects getting straight into the action.
So there we go. We have a fake out going onto that Cresselia there. Not being able to do too much damage, but obviously getting that flinch chance. We've got the Origin Pulse. It's going to hit both Pokemon here. How much will this do to this Raichu?
Ooh.
A fair amount of damage there, leaving with 31 HP. Origin Pulse from Markus's Kyogre, hitting both targets as well. Very accurate move here. Now we've got the under half HP Cresselia activating a Citrus Berry here. Going to push it back over half HP.
Yeah, that was a really strong Origin Pulse against the Cresselia. I mean, both players trading Origin Pulses, but Raichu able to hang on with around 25% health. So we have seen that Raichu does carry the Assault Vest item throughout the day and throughout the variations of this team, and not a surprise to see it there. But I think if you're Markus, you don't mind that trade-off too much. You do a lot of damage against Cresselia, which is always just such a big threat. Your Kyogre, which is your main means of offense on your team, isn't too heavily damaged. It took around 25% of health. And your Raichu now can threaten Kyogre with either Electric-type attacks or the Endeavor that we've seen.
Exactly, and that Endeavor has been used throughout the season on Pikachu, but also on Raichu to really do some big damage to these restricted legendary Pokemon. So Markus may have taken a lot of damage onto his Raichu, but we're going to see the Volt Switch coming out instead, going onto that Cresselia, which is going to take it down to just below half HP, giving Markus the ability to switch in a new Pokemon. So Aaron, what do you see coming in here?
There are a lot of options. I mean, maybe Markus went for the Volt Switch, predicting maybe a Groudon switch in. So, you can Volt Switch, maybe expecting Kyogre to switch into Groudon, you can bring in Rayquaza, or maybe he just wants some better positioning. I don't think Hitmontop is a Pokemon you really want to bring out too much here. It's most likely that, we actually do see Hitmontop, so Markus making me look a little bit silly. Does, of course, offer some fake out pressure, but can take a big hit here from the opposing Kyogre.
I think with the possibly the Gengar in the back, he didn't want to take too much damage on that as well, because obviously that stops him from being
There's
trapped.
a Psychic, though, into Hitmontop.
That is a really great move.
Oh my gosh!
That does so much damage. Critical hit.
The invisible Focus Sash once again.
Wow. So we see the eject button taking out that Hitmontop, and 1 HP. What a clutch survival there, but not good for Markus. Not what he wanted to see at all.
Right, and you see the Raichu come back in here, so kind of the same positioning. You just got a little bit of chip damage.
Oh, Thunder!
Thunder!
So we see the Thunder coming out from Primal Kyogre, but the Raichu coming back in there, really, really clutch for Markus.
Oh!
And there we see an avoid on the Origin Pulse there. So how much damage will this do to the Cresselia? It's going to knock it out, and Kyogre sitting pretty with only a little bit of damage there, but the eject button, the invisible Focus Sash, big turn.
I was wondering why Hitmontop first switched up. Perhaps Markus knew that Kyogre did have that Thunder. If that play makes a lot more sense, if you are anticipating Thunder, because you get the Hitmontop in, you take some damage, but then at least the Raichu comes back in and can absorb that electric type attack away. And so really, really cool play there by Markus. He still does take a lot of damage, of course. The Hitmontop is down all the way down to 1 HP, but once again, the name of this game is conserving your Kyogre, and Kyogre is still sitting at a very healthy range. It's still able to just launch attacks off, so it's in a good position. But we also know that Edward's Kyogre is faster, so that can play a significant role. Edward did lose his Cresselia, which is a pretty good Pokemon in this matchup, but he's still not out by any means, especially depending on what he switches in here. I think something like Kangaskhan could be something that definitely offers a lot of presence or pressure. But one of the biggest things about this Raichu, and we do see Kangaskhan come in here, one of the biggest things about this Raichu is his ability to get those nuzzles off and get those paralysis off. So we actually have some mind games right here. Does Raichu kind of fake out the inner focus Kangaskhan if it is inner focus, or does it choose to maybe go for a nuzzle, or does it fake out the Kyogre, or even go for a Volt Switch?
There's too many different options here. We could see the Endeavor coming out if he doesn't expect a fake out as well.
Endeavor, exactly.
Yeah, so that would take down Kyogre to very low health, or to Kangaskhan as well.
Right.
And Kyogre could then launch a big Origin Pulse. But if Edward actually has Groudon in the back, then he can stop any sort of water-type damage coming in by setting up Desolate Land.
Right, and one of the scary things, though, I think one of the reasons why this Ryogre team composition is so good is because you have Eject Button, Volt Switch, and just the potential to switch into Rayquaza. It's not like switching out to Rayquaza is the only way you can get the airlock up for basically Groudon. But we do switch the Kyogre.
So is this going to be Groudon hitting the field now? We're going to see a switch out. It's going to be the Groudon. So Groudon is going to come in. It's going to undergo Primal Reversion and set up that Desolate Land ability. So if we're going to see an Origin Pulse from Markus' side of the field, it will not do any damage whatsoever.
Yeah, but do we see maybe a Volt Switch from that onto that Kangaskhan, or just a switch out into that Rayquaza?
Let's see how Markus read this turn. So we've got the Desolate Land setting up right now. If we see the fake out, then there will not be any damage done this turn if he went for an Origin Pulse, but we're going to see a Mega Evolution from Kangaskhan instead.
Yeah, so not going to be a switch out there from Raichu, given that Raichu is obviously faster than the opposing Kyogre, but could still see a Volt Switch.
So we see the fake out instead. It's going to go onto that Kangaskhan.
Ooh.
So we're not going to see the switch out into Rayquaza this turn. Origin Pulse is not going to do any damage this turn. So a very, very neutral turn, a good positioning for Edward.
Yeah, definitely, but it's still a little bit scary because anytime you have a healthy Kyogre up against an opposing Groudon, that Kyogre can launch a water-type attack if you just make the switch into Rayquaza. So Raichu right now is in the range to get knocked out by a potential Sucker Punch from Kangaskhan, so if you want to maybe go for that Volt Tackle, you could just get Sucker Punched. So Raichu might just want to consider switching out into Rayquaza, but of course that's a read that Edward could easily make. So the question is, do you predict that and switch out your Groudon? Do you maybe protect it? Or if you know you're really fast Groudon, maybe you just double up into Kyogre with something like a Double Edge and a Precipice Blades. But one of the other issues if you do play that aggressively is that the Kyogre could just protect. And we do see Raichu switch out. Is it going to be Rayquaza?
So Raichu's left the field. Hitmontop is going to come in instead. It's going to activate Intimidate onto both of those possible physical type attackers, just to make sure the Kangaskhan's Double Edge won't do that much to Kyogre. Groudon, if it's using Precipice Blades, won't be able to do that much damage either. We're going to see the Protect from Kyogre, but with 1 HP, Hitmontop is basically going to be sacrificed here so Markus can get a bit better board position.
Yeah, I actually really like what Markus did there. He basically sacrificed the Hitmontop for the sake of the Intimidate, and Intimidate's so important. That's why Hitmontop, even though it's a Pokemon not used very often, actually makes so much sense on this team. So you get the, as we see, Eruption as well, which is...
That's good information for Markus as well. If it's a more specially orientated Groudon, then Kyogre has a slightly better time of it because it's got such better special bulk.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, one thing that Edward has going for him is that he's still got 3 Pokemon, and they're all 3 of the strongest Pokemon in the game, in Kangaskhan, Groudon, and the Kyogre in the back. We finally do see the Rayquaza switch in, so I think it made a lot of sense for Markus not to switch into Rayquaza last turn, because you get the Intimidate. Him on top has basically done his job at this point, and now you have a full HP Rayquaza and a very healthy Kyogre, and the Kangaskhan on the opposing end is intimidated. So this is going to be a big turn for Markus and for Edward, and I think it's really kind of boiled down to this, and we finally got the position where Kyogre could use his water-type attacks because of the airlock, and we do see Groudon want to avoid that switching out.
So Groudon is going to leave the field here. Are we going to see a big target down from the Kangaskhan onto that Kyogre, though, to try and get rid of it? We're going to see the Kyogre on Edward's side of the field now return to the field, setting up Primordial C, so water-type attacks will be boosted, but actually we're going to see the Delta Stream here. So Mega Rayquaza is going to hit the field, roaring into the sky triumphantly, really wishing on Markus into the top 8 now. So Mega Rayquaza on the field, Delta Stream active. Obviously, if there will be any Ice-type attacks coming out from that Primal Kyogre, they will be weakened later on. But the Double Edge is going to come out from Kangaskhan now onto Mega Rayquaza. That's going to do a significant amount of damage there. Even with the Intimidate, 68 HP remaining, a little bit of recall damage onto Kyogre, and the big Dragon Ascent is going to come out from Rayquaza now. Who's it going to target? Is it going to target down onto that Kangaskhan slot? So big slamming onto that Kangaskhan. Yes, there it goes. And Kangaskhan is going to leave the field now as well.
That's a big knockout there. It means that Markus could have control of the weather if he chooses to do so. Sun will come back out from Groudon, but Markus could switch in his Kyogre back out. We see another miss.
So there we go, Origin Pulse missing onto that Kyogre there, and now Edward can bring in his Groudon, set up that Sun, but as Aaron rightly said, with 3 Pokemon, Markus has the option to then switch out his Kyogre and get the control of the weather.
Yeah, but you gotta say, Markus missed 2 Origin Pulses on Kyogre. That's definitely unfortunate because that's a lot of free damage. Kyogre is still sitting relatively healthy. We saw that Rayquaza also didn't have the Life Orb item, so there's a decent chance Rayquaza can't knock out either Pokemon. We also saw, that the Kyogre on Edward's side is actually faster and did get access to that Thunder. So if Markus, swaps the Kyogre out and Raichu gets knocked down, Kyogre comes back in, then that Thunder is just 100% accurate. So still kind of an awkward position here for Markus, honestly, because he can't pick up a knockout necessarily, and he can't use his Water-type attack. And, part of that decision was Rayquaza Mega Evolving last turn, but by Mega Evolving, you forego the ability to have Airlock or Delta Stream when Groudon comes back in.
But we are going to see the Raichu coming out instead. Rayquaza is going to protect this turn. So if we do see a Thunder being launched into it, it will be picked up by that Lightning Rod. We're going to see the Ice Beam instead, which is going to go onto the Raichu slot. It should pick up the knockout here. Yeah, there's a Raichu goes down, and there's no way to protect Kyogre from those lightning-type attacks or electric-type attacks anymore.
And we saw the Eruption come out as well.
So Edward not giving up any more information about his Groudon. He doesn't need to. He's in the Sun, and he's got the full HP Groudon. So even if he's running Precipice Blades or mixed set, then he doesn't need to give out that information just yet.
Right, and that was a pretty hard read, right? It's rare to see an Ice Beam and an Eruption into a Kyogre there, but Edward expecting that maybe Kyogre's going to switch out to Protect and let Rayquaza, even if it Dragon Ascents, my Eruption should be able to knock out the Rayquaza since the Sun is up. So, this is kind of the same positioning. Now Rain is up, but of course there is that Thunder potential from Kyogre. So a lot of this hinges off the fact how fast is his Groudon, how fast is his Kyogre, and do either player kind of attack into Protects here. Right now you really have to be able to call the right plays and be able to you can't basically waste the turn at this point because it's so fast-paced, and it comes down to, I think, really the speeds. We also know, that Kyogre on Edward's side has Thunder, so does the Thunder knock out Kyogre? Can the Groudon even hit the Rayquaza right now? We don't see any Protects. Here we go.
So here we go, top 16, top 8 is on the line for these players. This is game 1, though, so still lots to go for. We've got the Dragon Ascent onto the Kyogre here. How much will this do?
So close.
Now it's down in the red, so Rayquaza obviously really heavily damaged now.
Here's the Thunder.
How much is this going to do to Primal Kyogre? Big Thunder, obviously 100% accurate in the rain.
It's so close, it hangs on.
42
HP. Groudon gets the water spout off.
How much will this do to Groudon? Groudon's going to survive there as well, so Groudon's just down in the yellow.
But Kyogre survives too, and here's an Earth Power.
Oh, this should pick up the knockout as well.
I think so.
So, onto the Kyogre. Oh no! Kyogre's gone down from Markus. Rayquaza is the only Pokemon he has left. So really, really strong performance from Edward Cheung at this point.
Yeah, but we saw the Water Spout there, and Origin Pulse would have been able to pick up the knockout onto Groudon, but Markus maybe thinking I can survive it, a Water Spout should be able to pick up the return knockout, but not the case there. That Groudon is able to survive, and now it is a 2-on-1. Of course, Rain is up. but, you know, Rayquaza can only target one of 2 Pokemon. If you knock out the Kyogre, then the rain goes down and Groudon could perhaps get an attack off. But we don't know Groudon's 4th attack, and Eruption actually won't knock out Rayquaza right now, and Earth Power definitely won't. So you really got to wonder.
Can't actually happen.
Exactly. And even if it does happen, right, the way it happens is if Kyogre gets knocked out, Groudon has to use an attack. So maybe this Groudon doesn't have a way to touch Rayquaza.
This is going to be interesting. Maybe Markus has put himself into a good position here, even with Primal Kyogre going down. So both trainers taking their time to think about what they want to do here. So Groudon and Kyogre on the field for Edward Cheung of Hong Kong.
Extreme speed coming out.
Extreme speed onto that Primal Kyogre. Primal Kyogre is going to go down here. Groudon is left out on the field. What will Groudon be able to do up against this Rayquaza? Are we going to see an Eruption this turn?
And we do! That might not be able to knock it out.
So we see the Eruption coming out from Groudon. How much will this
so
do?
Close, but not enough!
23 HP. Rayquaza is left in the red. Markus looking pretty good here. We can see a Dragon Ascent coming onto this Groudon for the knockout. And that's game 1. Wow, really, really tight game. Game 1, going top 16 for the World Championships here. Markus Stadter of Germany has taken this first game.
Really, really incredible game there. I thought Edward had the momentum and the advantage for the majority of the game. Markus managed his Kyogre in really well there at that late game, and it looked like maybe Edward was able to win that one, but that Groudon ultimately just didn't have any way to really hit that Rayquaza. You know, if Eruption is your best move against Rayquaza, then you really don't have any firepower there. And, you know, there wasn't really any play Edward could have done there either. Like, he could have maybe protected Kyogre, and at that point, it's kind of a timer game, if anything. But it looks like Edward just didn't have enough firepower, and he ended up just trying to go for it, maybe expecting Eruption to pick up the knockout. But given how low HP that Groudon was at, would have been difficult to pull off.
Well, this is a bit of information that Markus can take into game 2 as
Absolutely.
well. Once he knows that he's got it down to just Groudon, then things could be really good for him. So once again, we're going to show you team preview, guys. Edward's team, which is on your screen, is Kyogre, Smeargle, Salamence, Cresselia, Kangaskhan, and Groudon. And for Markus, we are going to have Raichu, Hitmontop, Rayquaza, Gengar, Kyogre, and Bronzong.
Yeah, so I think you're just seeing this team play. It's relatively rare that Bronzong and Gengar actually make an appearance unless it's against those Groudon Xerneas teams, because those improve your matchup significantly. So it's really centered around Hitmontop, Raichu, Rayquaza, and Kyogre. And once again, I think Kyogre is really the crux of the team. You know, you get so many Origin Pulse and Water Spouts off because you're well protected. And the reason why it's well protected is because it's bulky. You saw it was able to survive from that Thunder with around 44 HP. And it's also able to just, you know, take less damage from physical type attacks from Hitmontop's Intimidate. And it also has Raichu to redirect electric type attacks away. So we're going to get into the second game. That was a really, really close first game, and it really came down to whether Groudon had any other move, you know, other than Eruption to hit Rayquaza. Now that Markus knows, okay, he doesn't, we're going to have to see how Edward's going to adjust to that, because he knows he can't play that end game.
Guys, we're in the top 16 of the World Championships. We're in game 2. Give it up for Markus Stadter and Edward Cheung of Hong Kong. We're going to get into this game. We've got Raichu, Kyogre, Cresselia, Kyogre as well. This is going to be an amazing match.
I'm really excited, and it seems like kind of deja vu here in terms of the lead matchup. So we get the exact same things basically here. And I would say the early game was probably a little bit more in Edward's favor. We did see that Cresselia has Psychic. A lot of Cresselias in this format forego just Psychic type attack, or Psychic in particular, because you know, there's just so many moves that Cresselia wants. Icy Wind, Trick Room, Helping Hand, Gravity, Skill Swap, etc. So that Cresselia a little bit more offensive with Psychic, even with that critical hit, not able to knock out the Intimidate, but that Psychic does mean a big deal against Hitmontop. So you gotta wonder whether Markus brought the Hitmontop once again or not, because it does matter a lot, especially against Kangaskhan. If you're able to intimidate Kangaskhan, then its double edges do significantly less, and that's really important, especially as a Kyogre player.
So he's got to deal with that Cresselia before he can bring the Hitmontop in, but should he bring Gengar, then that's also damaged super effectively by that Psychic type attack. But we can see a fake out onto Cresselia. More importantly, Cresselia is going to flinch, and Origin Pulse is going to come out from Edward's Kyogre. It's going to do big damage to both of these Pokemon. Obviously, Raichu surviving with that Assault Vest. Water Spout from Kyogre onto both of the opposing Pokemon. It's going to do big damage to Cresselia, once again activating that Citrus Berry, which is going to push it up over half HP.
Yeah, pretty similar turn to the last turn. I think maybe the first time Markus used Origin Pulse, but basically the same amount of damage done to everything here. But I think that's an okay trade-off, right? The game was close, but Markus was able to close it out in the end. Now he also has that knowledge like Groudon doesn't have much for the Rayquaza. So maybe Markus, knowing that it's special Groudon, can play a little bit around that and set up the late game for it. And I think special Groudon here is maybe a slight disadvantage for Edward.
Do you think that bringing Bronzong for Markus would be a good deal? I mean, it doesn't really do much against the other members of Edward's team that happened last game.
Right, I don't think you really want to switch up your Pokemon here. I think that Markus's 4 that he brought are probably the best options. I gotta wonder if Edward here changed up anything. We actually do see a Protect coming out from Kyogre, no switch outs.
So Primal Kyogre is going to protect itself on Edward's side of the field. Again, a Volt Switch onto Cresselia. Basically exactly the same as what happened in the last game. Raichu is going to return to Markus Stadter, and we're going to have to wait and see what he brings in here.
Here we go again.
So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Markus is going down exactly the same route that he went in the first game, and that's what took him through to this game too.
Absolutely. So let's see if we see a Psyche come out from this Cresselia and what slotted targets. Oh, it's an Icy Wind.
So a slight change up here. So we're going to see Icy Wind hitting both Pokemon, getting the speed drop and a little bit of chip damage as well.
Absolutely. That's a big deal here as well, that Hitmontop's going to be able to swap right back out. Kyogre, the damage onto that is negligent and is already slower than Kyogre and Cresselia, so that basically means a kind of dead turn from Edward.
Exactly, and so we're going to have to see what Edward's going to be able to use that Icy Wind for, because it looked like Groudon was faster than Kyogre anyway.
Here's Origin Pulse. Does it hit Cresselia? It does.
So Origin Pulse coming out from Markus. It's going to hit Cresselia here. It's going to take it out as well, so Cresselia going down on turn 2 once again.
But even better positioning for Markus this time, right? Hitmontop hasn't even taken really any damage, and that Psychic is actually a big deal in terms of damaging. Oh, here's Smeargle.
So here's a change up for Smeargle.
And yeah, you know, I like the Smeargle pick here. I think it makes a lot of sense, but it's also pretty scary because the fact that you know, Smeargle here can't do any damage. You can maybe Dark Void. Raichu still has the ability to Fake Out as well, so you can see a Fake Out and maybe just a Water Spout or an Origin Pulse. Anytime you're against the Smeargle, though, you have to first wonder what item does it have. Is it Choice Scarf or is it Focus Sash? Second of all, you have to be aware of the fact that there's Wide Guard. And one thing that Edward does have going for him right now is that his Kyogre is faster, but Raichu does protect his Kyogre from Thunder. The Smeargle here actually goes for a Spiky Shield, so not going to be a Scarf Fairy.
No damage going to go onto Smeargle there, and we're going to see the Spiky Shield. Raichu taking damage there, going in for the Fake Out. We've got the Origin Pulse going off from Edward's Primal Kyogre. It's going to knock out this Raichu. How much will it do to Kyogre, leaving it just over half HP? And we're going to have to see what move Primal Kyogre on Markus' side of the field is going to go for. It's going to be the Water Spout. Obviously, Smeargle protecting himself from any damage. How much will this do to the Primal Kyogre for Edward? Not too much at all. It's just over half HP, and both of these Kyogre...
Here's Moody!
Defense rising for Smeargle there. What we're going to see the drop off, it's going to be special attack, so not really too much going on there for Smeargle.
Yeah, I mean, defense can help it slightly, maybe against the Mega Rayquaza, or maybe Hitmontop with the close combat, so it's not something that's completely useless, but not something like speed or evasion that you'd like to see. So Hitmontop's going to come back in, is going to be able to get the Intimidate off, and you are now in that awkward position where, you know, Edward's Kyogre is still faster and can Thunder. We see how much pressure there is from Markus's team, though. There's just always Fake Out, and that's a big deal. Hitmontop comes back in, now there's another Fake Out user, and the Smeargle protected last turn, or Spiky shielded. So this turn, you know, Markus could just go for a Fake Out and an Origin Pulse. Of course, you have to be a little bit scared that maybe Groudon is still in the back. We actually don't know the 4th Pokemon on Edward's side yet. Groudon would actually be okay here, because you don't want to switch in something like Kangaskhan into an Origin Pulse. Salamence actually could be a decent Pokemon to have here, too, if Edward decided to bring it.
So we're actually going to see Kyogre leaving the field from Markus's side. It's going to bring in that Rayquaza. Are we going to see a Fake Out coming out from the Hitmontop here? So Hitmontop, Airlock is going to activate, so the Water Spout damage or Origin Pulse damage won't be doing that much. Fake Out onto the Smeargle, doesn't want to take any sort of Dark Void, Sleeping turns. And we're going to see the Thunder onto the Rayquaza here. How much will this do? It takes it down to just...
And the Paralysis!
That is not good for Markus. He did not want to pick up that Paralysis. The Moody from Smeargle as well. What's it going to be? Special Defense rising sharply, and we're going to see a drop in speed.
That's such a big Thunder Connect. First of all, that Thunder wasn't 100% accurate because Airlock from Rayquaza was activated. So not only was Edward, you know, fortunate enough to hit that Thunder, he was also fortunate enough to get that Paralysis. That Paralysis can actually be a very big deal because that means that now this Kyogre outspeeds everything on Markus's team. So super unfortunate roll there. That's kind of what you have to deal with if you play a little bit safely. Sometimes, you know, crazy luck involved things can happen like that. And you'd imagine that if that Rayquaza doesn't get hit by the Thunder, first of all, you still have your Focus Sash, which can help out against Ice Beams, and second of all, you know, you just are able to outspeed and still maybe knock out the Smeargle, and with the Sash, that could be a big deal here. But we do see the Rayquaza Protect and no switch out on Smeargle's end.
So once again, no switch outs. We're going to see the Protect, and we're going to see an Ice Beam into that Rayquaza slot. Close Bombat from the...
Can it knock it out? It's got the defense increase. No!
No! Smeargle hangs around for one extra turn there. We've got the defense and special defense drops onto that Hitmontop, but that...
Oh!
Oh my god! So we're going to see the transform going onto that Primal Kyogre. 2 Primal Kyogres sitting on for Edward's side of the field, and that is a really big turn for Smeargle.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, really nice transform, but of course that Smeargle has taken so much damage, so it could be maybe an extreme speed KO range. But I think if I'm Edward, I'm still pretty content about my position, and here's why. For Quasar right now, if it chooses the extreme speed, we'll just get knocked out by the Kyogre, and Hitmontop isn't doing very much. There is still that Thunder threat, and we know that Edward's Kyogre is already faster. So once again, that paralysis is such a big deal because first of all, you're able to just outspeed everything, and of course a 25% chance of immobility as well. I like Transform as a move there just because it puts on more offensive presence. Right now, you have 2 Kyogres to target down. It's like, okay, I kind of need to knock out both, but can I really do that?
And there's a possibility that it's a 3 restricted Pokemon team now for Edward, and that's a lot of base stats.
But we see the swap out.
We're going to see the swap out there onto that Kyogre.
Here's Groudon.
Here comes the Groudon, so we're going to see the Desolate Land ability activating. Are we going to see a Mega Evolution from Rayquaza? But again, the board positioning for Edward, he's really thinking about what he wants to do to limit the amount of options that Markus has.
Absolutely, and the nice thing here is if you are able to pick up a knockout this turn, then the Rain will be able, you can shut down the Rain basically by switching your Groudon back out. Unless somehow Markus can pick up a knockout on this turn, I wouldn't really expect that though.
So here comes the extreme speed. Like we said, it's going to go onto that Groudon, not going to be able to do too much damage at all. Going to see the Ice Beam from Kyogre. It's going to knock out that Rayquaza here, so Rayquaza's going to go down this turn. It's going to be 2 Pokemon left for Markus Stadter of Germany. What will Hitmontop do here? Will Hitmontop go for the close combat? Is it going to go onto the Kyogre? Yes, it will. How much does it do to Kyogre? It's good. Oh! Kyogre going down to just the red there. Defense and special defense dropping on Hitmontop's side of the field, but not looking too good for Markus.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a huge survival there. If Kyogre goes down, Markus actually has a pretty good shot of winning this one because now he's got Hitmontop, Kyogre against Smeargle and Groudon, and you've got the Rain up. But the nice thing now is you could potentially just switch your Groudon back out into Smeargle.
Exactly.
The other big thing is, does Hitmontop have a way to knock out this Kyogre with priority? Because if it doesn't, then, the Kyogre from Edward's end can just thunder Markus's Kyogre. Of course, another potential play is that the Kyogre on Edward's end protects, or the Kyogre on Markus's end protects, then Thunder goes into that protect, and Hitmontop just close combats to knocks out the Kyogre. So we're going to see whether Kyogre protects or not. Edward may not want to switch here, knowing, okay, I can just Thunder your Kyogre and Earth Power the Hitmontop. But of course, Hitmontop is a Pokemon that used to run Mach Punch and Sucker Punch in VGC in 2010, so I wonder if we're going to get a throwback to that. Otherwise, its best priority move, that we currently often see it uses Feint. But not sure if that's enough, and we do see the switch out here.
So Groudon going to be leaving the field here. We're going to see a revolving door of Pokemon for Edward of Hong Kong. So Smeargle going to come back in here to take any sort of damage from that Groudon slot. We're going to see a Protect from Primal Kyogre on Edward's side of the field. We're going to see that Feint coming out onto the Smeargle, so that could have been big. Surviving with what must be 1 HP there. And then a Void. What a turn. Wow, Smeargle really surviving there. Special attack rising and evasiveness falling for Smeargle.
Oh my gosh, I thought Markus...
Some crazy turns here, Aaron.
I thought he predicted the Kyogre Protect and just went Feint Origin Pulse. So I like the Protect play there from Kyogre, but he opted not to go for the Thunder, expecting the Kyogre on Markus's end to go for the Protect. And now you still have another Mind Game. But, that Kyogre may be just able to knock out this Hitmontop right now. Another question I have is what its 4th move is. I think we've seen Origin Pulse, Ice Beam, and Protect. We haven't seen the 4th Water type attack or just attack in general. Smeargle also able to dodge that, but I was kind of interested because if you lose your Smeargle, then Groudon's forced to come back in, and then you have to Thunder again. So super fortunate there that the Smeargle doesn't go down, I think, on Edward's end because you can't Thunder here. Oh, it's got Fake Out!
No, it's got Fake Out, and that's
huge.
That's going to be a flinch onto Hitmontop there, which cannot move this turn. A Thunder coming out from Primal onto the Hitmontop. So Hitmontop is going to take some big damage here.
It gets the knockout.
So Hitmontop has gone down for Markus Stadter. What will Primal Kyogre do here? Origin Pulse going to connect with both Pokemon, so Smeargle will go down this turn, and Primal Kyogre is going to go down as well, so it's Kyogre against Groudon.
I'm really surprised that Edward didn't go for the Thunder onto Markus's Kyogre, because if you do have Fake Out, then you can make the safe play of Fake Outing Smeargle or Fake Outing Hitmontop and Thundering. Even if the Kyogre protects, you can just still Thunder next turn, because Markus can't do any damage and you're faster. So now it's a Groudon versus Kyogre war, which is, if you're Markus, you're a lot more content because the last couple of turns have not looked very good in your favor, but your Kyogre still is around 50%, and maybe you can outdamage it with Ice Beam, so it's not over, but we're gonna have to see, who's faster and who's able to outdamage you, and a critical hit here could also change things by so much.
Exactly, and we've seen that Desolate Land is now activated, no water type attacks can be used.
Kyogre's faster!
So Kyogre is now faster than Groudon. We've got the Ice Beam coming off as well. It's going to take it down to just under half HP. Earth Power from Groudon, how much will this do? So that is going to... Oh, it will not be able to survive another one, Aaron.
It doesn't look like, but it could be a damage roll. That one just, I think at 54 was the, a half point mark. And here's the Ice Beam. Do we get the crit? Does it crit? No!
Oh, no, it's on the grid.
Oh, but he went for the precipice place. He
wow.
opted to risk the miss, but he hits.
So that is a mixed Groudon. That's something that Edward has been hiding the entirety of this game.
Oh my gosh. You know, Edward,
what a risk. What a risk that Edward just took there to take game 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like Edward had that game maybe 100% won. I guess the double protect
It could have been a roll. It could have been a double protect.
Right,
What a game!
Oh my gosh!
What a final turn!
Edward forcing this to a game 3 and revealing his Groudon has Earth Power, does have Precipice Blades as well. So I really like the Smeargle adjustment there, though. You know, I'm surprised. I think Kangaskhan and Salamence are still pretty solid Pokemon in this matchup, especially Salamence against Hitmontop, Kyogre, and Rayquaza. But Edward opting to go with a different team composition. The Cresselia, you know, wasn't able to do too much, so maybe Edward wants to swap that out for one of his Mega Evolutions, because that Smeargle was at least able to put in some work, although I do think Dark Void instead of Transform would have been a good play for Edward too. But I think if you're Markus, you can't be too upset about that one. You played relatively well, and there was just so much bad luck that happened to you, and it's like, okay, if that same game happens, but I don't get unlucky, then I should be able to win this one. You know, Thunder being able to connect with Rayquaza in the airlock and paralyzing, that one's a hard
really big turn, really big turn there. So guys, once again, Markus Statter's team, which you cannot see, is going to be Raichu, Hitmontop, Rayquaza, Gengar, Kyogre, and Bronzong. And Edward's team is Kyogre, Smeargle, Salamence, Cresselia, Kangaskhan, and Groudon. Aaron, if you're Markus, what do you do to win this game? If you're Edward, what do you do to win this game?
I think
the same Pokemon?
I think if you're Markus, you know, your strategy has worked out pretty well. Once again, it was just you got some really unlucky breaks there at the end of the last game. I think also if that Smeargle goes down, I think Origin Pulse missed it, then Groudon comes back in and suddenly you're trying to use a 50% accurate Thunder. So Edward kind of gambling at the end there, and it worked out in his favor, especially with that Precipice Blades over the Earth Power, since we saw Earth Power did just over the amount it needed, but maybe not wanting to risk a damage roll, instead saying, okay, I'll just take the 85% chance. So Markus still could have won all of that, even despite all the kind of poor luck. But, you know, we are going to get into the third game, and I think if you're Edward, you have to realize, okay, you know, I got fortunate that last one. My chances of being in this tournament are still alive, but maybe I need to make some adjustments.
And there goes the handshake. The atmosphere is electric here in San Francisco.
Game 3, top 16.
Oh, it's so good, guys. Give it up for Markus Stadter and Edward from Hong Kong. This is going to be an amazing match. We're going to get right into it now. We're going to see the theme. It's going to be Kyogre and Cresselia in a different position, and Hitmontop and Kyogre from Markus, so a slight variation from Markus.
Yep, slight variation, but pretty interesting one, right? The Hitmontop Intimidate here. I love the energy coming from the crowd. You can just hear everyone chanting for Markus as he gives a thumbs up. You know, Hitmontop is a Pokemon that wants to conserve its Intimidate. However, in this matchup, maybe it doesn't matter as much because we know that Groudon has Eruption Earth Power. It does help against Precipice Blades, of course, but otherwise, you know, if Kangaskhan doesn't make an appearance, then those Intimidates actually don't matter nearly as much.
Yeah.
The other thing here is, you know, Hitmontop does have that big up pressure, but I don't know, I kind of liked Raichu earlier. I guess if anything, though, like you have some plays to make because you know if Hitmontop gets hit by any attack, it's going to swap out with the eject button.
And if you fear a Thunder on the first turn, you can always bring Raichu in to take it with the Lightning Rod.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I love the eject button is because it allows you to make plays during the middle, right? Often, you know, you can only switch at the beginning of the game, obviously, but what Volt Switch and eject button allow you to do is you kind of make plays based off how that turn is going. So if you expect a target at that point, you know, midway after you've seen some of the plays, then that's what, you know, those moves and items allow you to do, which is really cool. And that's why I think, you know, this is such a strong combination with Kyogre. But here's a fake out, this time onto Kyogre.
So fake out from Hitmontop is going to go onto that Thunder.
Oh!
Thunder Wave coming out from Cresselia here onto that Kyogre, which could play a big deal later on in this match.
Do we get a paralysis?
So we're going to see a flinch from Primal Kyogre, and a water spout from the Kyogre here. No damage taken, full power water spout. Going to do huge damage to that Cresselia. Obviously, the Citrus Berry will activate. We've seen that in both matches before, but a lot of damage there from a full power water spout in the rain.
Yeah, so a lot to talk about there. The Kyogre on Edward's end ended up not to go for a Protect, and that's mainly because he was probably expecting a fake out onto Cresselia and a Water Spout, so Edward probably gambling, just trying to get some damage off. The Thunder Wave play there is a little bit interesting because at this point Kyogre's already slower, so you don't really need speed control. Maybe Edward realizing, though, that Kyogre is by far the most important Pokemon on Markus's team, so by paralyzing it, not only has a 75% chance of attacking, and for example, if it got a full paralysis last turn, that would have been so big because then this next turn Markus or Edward could just do so much damage. So if I'm Markus, I'm probably still okay with that because I was able to do so much damage and I didn't take any damage in return.
So we're going to see a switch out from Primal Kyogre on Edward's side of the field. Oh, here we go. It's going to be that Groudon coming in. So Desolate Land will be active from now on. If there's a big Water Spout or Origin Pulse coming out from Markus's Kyogre, it will do no damage here. So Cresselia is free to do some big damage to the Hitmontop if it chooses to use Psychic.
Yeah, but if it does use Psychic, then the Rayquaza kind of just comes in and Kyogre gets a Water-type attack off. This is a really risky play. We'll see if there are any switch-outs.
Uh-oh! The Hitmontop's coming out. Will we see the Rayquaza coming in? Could have been beautiful. It was the Raichu coming in, though, so if there's a Psychic, it's going to go onto that Raichu slot.
God!
So really risky play. If he left Hitmontop in there, and the paralysis coming out from Primal Kyogre there, it could have been beautiful, Aaron. It could have been beautiful.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, like, he willingly went for the Psychic onto the Hitmontop knowing there was an eject button, so if Hitmontop just didn't swap, I mean, maybe he was really sure Hitmontop would switch out because you don't want to keep the Hitmontop in against
Or maybe there's a Kangaskhan in the back and you wanted to get rid of Intimidate, like you said earlier.
Right. But, I mean, that could have been really scary. Markus could have been in, maybe just have won the game if it was Rayquaza coming in because Groudon and Cresselia could have fainted. We did see a full paralysis.
And here's
no
a fake
switch
out.
outs.
Here's a fake out going onto that Primal Groudon there. So Icy Wind coming out from Cresselia now. Going to hit both Pokemon, do chip damage to both of them, but more importantly, taking each Pokemon speed down by 1 level.
And we don't see the switch into Rayquaza there, so Groudon flinches, and here's the Ice Beam.
Here's the Ice Beam from Primal Kyogre. It's going to hit into that Cresselia. It's going to take it down to just under a third of its HP there. So we're going to see a lot of positioning this turn, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised, right? Because Markus could just switch into the Rayquaza, but perhaps he realizes that. I mean, I think the reason why that's an okay play to make is because Groudon can't do too much damage right now, but perhaps Markus just really wants to conserve his position and play a little bit safe. Edward's not really getting anything happening right now. I mean, Cresselia can Icy Wind for days, but it can only do that for so long, and Groudon is supposed to be the Pokemon that you want to use to get as much damage off as possible, but right now, anytime you have a Groudon in against a Kyogre with a Rayquaza on the Kyogre's team, you're in imminent threat of just a Rayquaza switch in. So the paralysis could play a big deal because it makes it a little bit harder. You don't get that 100% play if you switch into Rayquaza now, even if you switch out to 75% chance, but we actually see Groudon swap out here.
So Edward does not want to see any big Water-type damage onto that Groudon. If a Rayquaza comes in, we're going to see the Primal Kyogre on his side of the field. Primordial Sea will activate again, so any damage done from Water-type attacks will be boosted. Markus's Kyogre is going to leave the field now. What is going to come in here? It's going to be Hitmontop trying to recycle those Intimidates onto the Primal Groudon, and will Cresselia be able to put a Psychic into that slot? Has Edward read that play?
Yeah, let's see if we see a Psychic or maybe just another Icy Wind, hoping to catch a Rayquaza switch in, and it is going to be Icy Wind.
So Icy Wind is playing out on from Cresselia. It's going to drop Raichu's speed again, so that's 2 levels of reduced speed for Raichu, 1 level of reduced speed for Hitmontop, and yeah. The eject button is now going to activate, so where will Markus be bringing his Pokemon?
Right, I mean, regardless of who he brings in here, I think I'm a little bit concerned for Edward because of the fact that Kyogre might be taking a ton of damage here. I think Rayquaza could be a fair switch in. You could also just bring in your Kyogre once again. Both of those Pokemon are viable options, but the main thing is Kyogre on Edward's end is also a big deal. Like, one of the reasons why he was able to win that last game was because Kyogre threatens the Rayquaza, especially when it's paralyzed. It threatens the Hitmontop, Raichu, and the opposing Kyogre, and we do see Rayquaza coming here.
So there goes the Rayquaza from Markus Stadter. Now he's going to hit the field, activating that airlock. And you see the Endeavor from Raichu there onto the Kyogre. Going to take it down to 64 hit points. Obviously, Endeavor taking it down to whatever the user has.
Yep. That's a big Endeavor, and now Kyogre is just slowly chipped away. Cresselia, of course, can still maybe get an attack off against Rayquaza and Raichu, but the thing is, Rayquaza is pretty speedy, right? It should be able to outspeed both Cresselia and Kyogre, so it can just Mega Evolve and maybe get a Dragon Ascent off. Obviously, now you know that Edward has Thunder Wave. You do have to be aware of that. I'm not sure if Raichu can actually knock out the Cresselia, which is probably the biggest issue right now. Of course, you could just go for a target onto Cresselia with Rayquaza, but due to the Icy Wind, that Kyogre should be faster than Raichu, so you still have to be a little bit careful right now if you're Markus, but some really smart playing. He never went for the, let me switch into Rayquaza and just go for a Water-type attack. Instead, it's like, let me, not even try to risk anything because my opponent's probably going to predict the Rayquaza switch and he has to play around it.
And using the synergy of his team, this is why the simplicity of having eject button, having Volt Switch, having the option to switch in is really great for him.
And another switch out here. Here's Hitmontop.
We're going to see Hitmontop coming in. Again, another revolving door of Pokemon here from Markus Stadter. We're going to see Intimidate activating, not really mattering too much, but possibly setting up a fake out for the next turn here. Rayquaza is going to protect, opting not to Mega Evolve here, so no Mega Evolution coming out for Rayquaza. Icy Wind's going to hit onto that Hitmontop, so no chip damage onto Rayquaza, which is really what Edward was trying to pick up here.
What's Kyogre going for here? Did it get an Origin Pulse off? Oh, Ice Beam into the Rayquaza.
So a nice protect there from Markus. Didn't take a speed drop, didn't take any big Ice-type damage, and managed to get the Hitmontop in there to get some sort of fake-out pressure. Yeah,
I mean, Markus has switched, it feels like, almost every turn of the game, but he's been making really good switches. I think in games like VGC in particular, I mean, in specific games like this, right, there are times where you don't really need to switch, and there are times where you really need to switch. And Markus has been switching in times where it's like, I could switch or I could stay in and just go for an attack, but he's catching Edward off guard because Edward keeps on expecting the Pokemon to stay in. And that was maybe a last-ditch effort. Oh, let me just try to target down Rayquaza, or maybe hope that, Rayquaza just doesn't target down the Kyogre, targets down Crest, and I get an Ice Beam off. But now, big turn here from Markus.
No protects coming out from Edward's side of the field. We got the critical hit onto the Kyogre from Fake Out and a Dragon Ascent. You can imagine this is going to go into that Cresselia slot. Yes, so Cresselia is now out of the picture. Kyogre is not going to be able to act this turn. No Icy Wind drops and no Paralysis.
Yeah, so no Protect coming out from the Kyogre there either, which is an interesting decision. You know, that's why it was a really smart Hitmontop switch in, because Fake Out pressure is just so good. You basically negate one Pokemon from attacking at all, and that was a perfect turn there for Markus. He's gotten rid of Cresselia, and hit that Kyogre on Edward's end really hasn't been able to do that much. And we do see Kangaskhan come in, which I do think is maybe the one Pokemon that can really help him out in this matchup. I'm just wondering if it's maybe a little bit too late, because this Rayquaza still is sitting at full HP, and Kyogre is an extreme speed KO range, especially if Rayquaza Mega Evolves.
So Edward deciding to go back to Plan A, which he used in Game 1. It didn't work out for him then. Will it work out for him now? Both players are now playing for a position in the top 8 of the World Championships here in San Francisco for 2016. It's going to be a really big turn, Aaron. What do you think is going to go down?
I mean, Kangaskhan here, even though it's tempting to Fake Out, I'm not sure you can really afford that. We do see the Switch Out, which I think is a good play, because at least your Kyogre doesn't faint, and it also means you can maybe control the weather a little bit more. Right now, you really have to prioritize knocking out the Rayquaza because it's got all that priority, but the other issue is Hitmontop has access to close combat. So we're first of all going to see if the Rayquaza chooses to Mega Evolve here. Second, we're going to see if Kangaskhan targets the Hitmontop, and Hitmontop actually swaps out, so trying to get the Intimidate back in again.
A really intelligent switch there from Markus, reminding himself that he needs to keep that Intimidate for both of these physical attackers. We've seen the Precipice Blades from the Groudon now. We're going to see a Mega Evolution coming out from Kangaskhan. Baby popping out the pouch, doing a little pose. Are we going to see a Fake Out this turn? We're going to see the Protect coming out from Rayquaza, so no chip damage at all taken this turn. Rayquaza is being really well protected here. Double Edge, going to knock out the Raichu, so you'll be able to bring in the intimidating Hitmontop next turn. Raichu going down without acting this turn.
Yeah, so I think if you're Markus, though, you're fine with that. The Raichu has done its job, essentially, throughout the course of this game, and now you get a free switch in into whatever you want. Kyogre's not a bad switch-in, obviously. You could just bring in Hitmontop, like you said, again, for the Intimidate. So Markus does have an important decision to make here. If you bring in Kyogre, then obviously Kangaskhan's a huge threat with its Double Edge, but one of the main things is you could switch in Kyogre here and, switch the Hitmontop, but instead Markus kind of reverses it, brings in Hitmontop, wants that Intimidate off first.
Yeah, so the Hitmontop is in now, going to intimidate the Kangaskhan and the Groudon. So we've seen the Precipice Blades. That will do some big damage to Kyogre if it's left unchecked. So Hitmontop also has Fake Out pressure here as well. So Kangaskhan using Double Edge last turn, wasn't able to get a Fake Out off. We've got a big chance for a Dragon Ascent this turn too.
Yeah, I mean, Hitmontop, threatening with Fake Out, you could also just close combat the Kangaskhan, which could knock it out, if not put it in extreme speed KO range. So this is big. It's a great Intimidate off. The main issue is, you can't knock out the Groudon right now. However, you do know the Groudon's moveset. You do know that it's carrying Earth Power. Not sure. I don't expect Earth Power to be able to knock out Hitmontop. Can't do too much to that Kyogre. Precipice Blades also reduce damage. You could choose the, Eruption, but you do have to be aware of the Kyogre switch in or just a Hitmontop wide guard. So it's really coming down to the wire. It feels like Markus has a slight advantage, but it could still go either way. And here we go.
So we're going to see a Mega Evolution coming out from Rayquaza. This is the first time Markus has chosen to Mega Evolve, and it's been a while since he's kept that airlock going. He's now going to set up the Delta Stream. So Delta Stream going to activate. Rayquaza not going to be taking too much damage from ice type attacks if Kyogre comes back in. We're going to see the Protect on Groudon's end from Edward Cheung.
Uh-oh, Markus looking like he's a little bit... Oh, okay.
Okay, Fake Out onto the Kangaskhan. That's okay, but I think he was hoping to pick up some damage onto that Groudon there.
Dragon Ascent?
Yeah, there we go.
Into the Groudon.
So really hoping to get some big damage onto that Groudon to set up for a knockout from Kyogre later on in the game.
Yeah, but time is running out right now, and you have to consider that as a factor. And I think Markus is ahead in terms of just Pokemon HP. So, and it doesn't, both players obviously have to keep that aware in the back of the head, just because we'll, maybe come down to tiebreakers. But a big opportunity there ends up being missed out. It's still not the worst of positions for Markus, though, because you still do have, of course, the Intimidate on both Kangaskhan and Groudon. Now it's a question of who does Rayquaza target with Dragon Ascent, and, Kangaskhan probably wants the Double Edge here. Who is it going to Double Edge? Maybe a critical hit could help him too. It feels like, once again, though, that Markus is a bit ahead, especially because Hitmontop can threaten that Kangaskhan. It might actually even be in close combat range, but we see a switch out.
So we're going to see a switch out from Mega Rayquaza here. The mysterious air current is going to dissipate, and Kyogre is going to come onto the field. Remember, it is paralyzed, so Groudon will be moving before it, and so will Kangaskhan always moves before it because it's how it's trained.
Double edge.
Double edge into that. Which slot is it going to be?
It's Kyogre.
Ooh, that's going to be some big damage there, even with the Intimidate, leaving it just under half HP there, taking some recall damage for it.
Oh!
Eruption. So that's a really good switch from Markus then. Is this going to be a knockout from Hitmontop? It will.
It is.
So there we go. Kangaskhan has gone down. It's now 2 Pokemon left on Edward's side of the field. Really, really big turns. This is so tense, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like that might have actually been the game decisive turn. Edward hoping that he stayed in with the Hitmontop and the Rayquaza, right? So he's like, okay, I'm just going to try to get as much damage off as possible, not realizing the Kyogre switching was coming. And it actually could have played very differently if Edward just double edges the Hitmontop and goes for the Earth Power. Then that Hitmontop goes down, and then it's Rayquaza, Kyogre, and it's still 3 on Edward's end. But, I think Markus has massively played this game in the sense that he's made really, really good switches. And now we know, it's not over yet, but Groudon is intimidated. It cannot use its fire or ground type attacks, or it can use its ground type attacks, but there's the wide guard threat, and timer is running dangerously low.
So we see the Hitmontop coming out. We're going to see Markus wanting to keep that Intimidate later on into the game. So only a couple of turns left. You can only imagine, though, due to the timer. We've got Delta Stream activating once again. So if any Ice Beams come out into that slot...
Thunder!
Thunder! Oh! It's going to be going onto that Rayquaza slot. Will it be to be able to pick up the Paralysis as well? So not too much damage there. No Paralysis either.
Oh, no!
Great switch in there. Orange Impulse is going to hit both Pokemon. Groudon's going to go down here. Because this Kyogre, Markus Stadter has won this game. He is through to the top 8 of the World Championships in 2016.
Oh my gosh, that could have played out so differently. If we saw the Thunder onto Markus's Kyogre instead of the Rayquaza and the Ice Beam, then Edward will win that game. I think just off time at that point for sure, because you just pick up the knockout and double protect.
Oh my god, sorry, I thought the Primal Kyogre had been knocked out there, but it hasn't. It's clung on with only a little bit of HP left, but obviously extreme speed being what it is. The match has been forfeited. Edward Cheung has lost this, unfortunately. Really well played from both players, but congratulations to Markus.
Markus Stadter has advanced to the top 8 of the 2016 Pokemon Video Game World Championships. He's trying to go all the way. He's trying to prove that, this is his year.
Yeah, and I mean, for a player that hasn't been playing that many tournaments this year, he actually opted to commentate at the European National Championships, to come into the World Championship, fight through day 1, make it this far in day 2. He's going really, really hard, gunning to get that World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, huge credits to both players there, though. I thought Edward played a really good series, and it literally came down to basically the last couple of plays on that very last game in the last minute. So it doesn't get any closer than that, and Markus was able to just eke out Edward, making the right plays and making the right calls consistently.
Aaron, my heart is too fast. Everything's too fast. This has been an amazing top 16 match. Markus Stadter moving through to the top 8. And like I said, I think the fact that he did not play in any of the European Nationals, he took some time out. He was commentating them instead, being able to study the metagame that's been building up in Europe. He hasn't had as much practice as some other players playing this metagame, and really doing really well to make it through this far into the tournament.
And he came from day 1, like you said, because he opted to be a commentator for the events, just out of nature of just trying to help the game grow. He kind of sacrificed his ability to make day 2 to do something greater for the community. Was able to, commentate all nationals, then made it through day 1. Now, this is the furthest he's ever gone at a world championship. But I want to give huge shout outs to Edward in general as well.
Incredible play.
Phenomenal. And, he's already proven himself on the world stage. It doesn't get any better than a really, really intense set against a world caliber player. And, he's definitely put Hong Kong onto the map even more now. And so, I'm really excited to see what else that region's able to produce. Congratulations to Edward. He doesn't go home empty-handed either. He'll take home, I believe, $1,500 and some other cool Pokemon World goodies.
Yeah, so guys, we're actually going to be able to kick it over to an interview with Markus Stadter, who's moved through to the top 8. So guys, take it away.
Hi there, guys. I am on the main stage indeed with Markus. How are you feeling after that match?
Really, really good, obviously. That's the first time I was able to make a very deep run at the World Championships. I bet it was mentioned numerous times, but so far my good results only happened at national championships or lower level. But yeah, thanks to the great help of all my friends, I was finally able to come up with a solid team. And yeah, now I'm here in the top 8.
Yeah, what are your standings now? You said you're in the top 8. What are you hoping for tomorrow?
Well, of course, playing tomorrow, that would be like incredible. Or just making it, I don't know, like at this point, I'm just really satisfied with how I did so far. I had to go all the way through yesterday's play as well. So yeah, I was able to qualify for day 2. Now I'm in the top 8, and anything else is just a bonus. Yeah.
You said that your results before haven't been as good as this one. Is anything different about what you're playing now versus then?
I think the last couple of years when I attended the World Championships, I was in a little bit of a different mindset in terms of team building. Because then I played in the national championships and had really solid finishes there with good teams. But then it was difficult for me to come up with a new strategy for the World Championships. However, this time I was actually commentating over in Europe at the national championships there, so I didn't participate. So I could save all the tricks for Worlds. And yes, thanks to my friends that helped me prepare, especially Wolf Glick that I have to give a shout out here. I somehow made it that far.
So for people who are just learning, what are some of those tricks that you brought with you to Worlds? What's your team like?
I mean, the team features a lot of like switching potential. We have that wall switch on Raichu, the eject button on the Hitmontop, and often in times you can play turns that take, I don't know, like 5 minutes, and it can be really draining, but if you keep your resources right and manage to, you can really manage to get yourself into valuable positions. Dual fake out is also really incredibly helpful, and that really also helped in that game that you just saw there.
Yeah, speaking of that game, there was a lot of reaction from the crowd. It was a very contentious match. Tell us some of the highlight moments from your point of view in that whole series.
In the first game, I was really happy not to see Smeargle make an appearance. So when it showed up in the second game, I was a little bit because with Smeargle, in my opinion, the problem can be that anything can happen. There's Moody Boost, it can learn literally any single move, as we did see the Transform being a very interesting tech that my opponent chose there. So I lost that game, but I don't know, I just really hoped that since I felt like I was in the advantage team-wise, for the third game I decided to go with a different lead setup with Hitmontop instead of Raichu, but then my opponent revealed the Thunder Wave on the Cresselia, which I had no idea about. If I had known that, then I probably would have just gone with the Raichu again. But then I felt like I had to play from behind a little bit, but in the end, I don't know, I just somehow managed to take the game.
Well, as a commentator, you probably have a pretty good view on the competition that is still left. Is there anything that you're really a little bit nervous about facing with your team?
It's two kind of feelings that will come together here. Since one of my best friends, in the game, definitely my best friend, Wolf Glick is still in the tournament, and he's using almost the exact same team. So facing him would, of course, be really, really good on the one hand, because it would mean that we made it really far. But on the other hand, I don't know what would happen if that was a thing, yeah.
Well, would you take it easy on him, or would you go extra hard?
I would go super extra hard.
All right, well, there's the challenge. Thank you so much for your time. And guys, we'll be right back after this.